Today's Lunch and Learn is about a topic that affects everyone: toxins and pollutants, how these chemicals affect your health. This is one that was kind of eye opening for me personally. A lot of times, I spend a lot of time out in rural areas thinking, hey, the air is safer, the water's cleaner, and everything's great. But what we're going to learn today is maybe that's not the case. And even people that try to do things the right way, you need to understand that you're being inundated in ways that you don't appreciate. And that's what all today is about. So let's jump in. First, the types of toxins and pollutants that we're going to talk about are environmental, occupational, and lifestyle. Environmental is easy. These are things that we're finding in our environment, in the air, in the ground, in the water, things of that nature. Occupational are the toxins and pollutants that we are exposed to because of the profession in which we work. And you'll be surprised at some of the occupations that are affected by these toxins and pollutants. And then, of course, lifestyle. Here at ID Life, we talk all the time about how diet and lifestyle choices create the nutritional gaps and determine outcomes with regard to how our health is affected by those choices. The reality is, these toxins and pollutants that we introduce to ourselves and to our families and to the people that we care about and love through our lifestyle choices do have an effect, either positively or negative, on their health. So we're going to go through that today as well. So first, environmental toxins. Environmental toxins consist of living in a major city, exposing ourselves to the things that major cities have to offer in the form of smog, air pollution, overpopulation, etc. Then you have pesticides, herbicides that we both use in our home, as well as the things that are applied to the crops, to the water table, and other things that we eat, consume, and even the animals that we consume. Because guess what? Our animals are consuming the crops and the water that is being contaminated with these things. So environmental toxins. A lot of people would see this and they say, China has a major air quality problem. And they think, yeah, but that's China's problem. That's not our problem. I just won't go to China. And this is what some Chinese cities actually look like on a daily basis. It is not a very safe place to breathe air. But here's something you probably did not know. It only takes 5 days for the jet stream to carry this polluted air to the United States. Let's let that set in for a second. 5 days for this polluted air to get to the United States. So don't think things that are happening in other areas of the world don't affect us, because they 100% do. And we need to be aware of these things. We need to understand how this is affecting our health. We need to understand the rise in asthma and upper respiratory issues as a result of the air quality problems that we are dealing with. I mean, we are one world. Yes, we have a country that we need to make sure that we try to protect and take care of and do the things that are right here. But the reality is, things that are being done in other parts of the world are also affecting us in a negative way. In fact, if you don't or are not familiar with something that's called PM 2.5, you need to be. See, PM 2.5 is this microscopic particle. It's a pollutant. And if you look on the screen, what you're going to see is that big brown thing is a human hair. It's roughly 100 microns in diameter. You'll see a table salt at 70 microns, mold at 8, pollen at 50, and then something called PM10, and then PM 2.5. Unfortunately, PM 2.5 are the contaminants, the pollutants, the things that are lodging in our lungs and other areas of our body that have been linked to things like cancer, asthma, autism, and other things. And of course, the source here, as you can see, is from our own EPA. These are things that you need to become familiar with, because guess what? These are the things that we are breathing and ingesting that you cannot even see. Let's talk about occupational toxins. Occupational toxins are those things we're exposed to because of the job that we choose. So occupational toxins can be any number of things, but you need to understand that it's not just exposure from the occupation as it relates to you yourself, because you happen to be, in this case, a fisherman. What you need to understand is the person that's working at the chemical plant that is having some issues with flaring and other issues of things getting up into the atmosphere, or the heavy metals, like in this case mercury, getting into the release. Well, that mercury gets into the air. Then, you have rain. That rain is falling in the areas in which you fish and you're exposed to on a daily basis because you're touching these things, you're breathing these things. They're also in the fish that you're catching because, you're in the fishing industry. And then, of course, we as consumers are consuming that fish or that heavy metal as a result. And of course, the heavy metals or the mercury levels have been linked to effects on our kidneys and liver and central nervous system and other organs. This is how the system works. This is when we talk about how everyone is affected occupationally. It's not just what you do; it's also what you're exposed to as a result of what you do. So let's look at another example. This is another source of pollution. I mean, it can be nutrients. Nutrients can be from the municipal sewage system, agricultural fertilizers, livestock and animal waste, stormwater drainage, and aquaculture. See, on the nutrient side alone, think about all of the occupations that deal in those areas that work with those things. We're talking about farmers. We're talking about ranchers. We're talking about sanitation workers. We're talking about all kinds of different things here. Then you get into the pathogens. Well, that one's easy because now you're talking about municipal sewage and sewage from ships and livestock and animal waste. Then you get into the chemical industry. Do you work in the oil and gas industry? Do you work in the chemicals or plastics industry? Or do you deal with trash on a regular basis? And remember, trash can be not just working in sanitation, but it could be working with trash in a restaurant. It can be in an office space. It can be any number of things. So our occupational toxins are also affecting us in a negative way. What about lifestyle toxins? This is one that a lot of people hear about. This is probably the one that has been in the news the most, especially when you're talking about tap water and its effects, and we're going to get into that in just a second. But most people don't understand that we are consuming toxins on a regular basis. The meats that we eat, guess what? Those animals are eating vegetables and grasses and other things that are fully loaded with chemicals and pesticides and other things that, guess what? When they ingest it, it gets into their system, and then guess what? We ingest it, and it gets into ours. The cheeses, those, these are the byproducts, dairy products, things like that. These are the byproducts of these animals that are consuming these things. And then, of course, we also eat those fruits and vegetables and don't clean them before we consume them. And if you do some research, you're going to find that even when you attempt to clean them, it doesn't always work out the way you intended. Then, of course, you have those home cleaning products. You have the plastics and the plastic containers and the bottled waters, etc. The other one that we don't think about a lot is we put our leftover food into plastic containers, and then we put them into the microwave to heat them up. There's this wonderful thing called plastic leaching that can occur, and actually you can get contaminated that way through pollutants and toxins as a result, and get those chemicals into your body. And then, ladies, I'm going to pick on you for half a second because what we're about to find out is all of those cosmetics and perfumes and colognes and other things that we use on a regular basis are adversely affecting our health because most people don't appreciate or understand that the skin is the largest organ in the human body and that we ingest more through our skin on a regular basis than we even do through personal consumption. In fact, there's some estimates out there that we are consuming as much as 18 pounds per year through our skin of chemicals and toxins that can be harmful to us. And that's a national American average. 18 pounds through the skin. So, how does this affect our tap water? See, most people think it's other people's fault. Most people are not thinking all the way through all the ways that our water table and water supply are affected. And usually you're trying to pick one or two things and saying, well, they're the leading cause. The reality is, if you look at it, we are all out to blame. All of us. So if you're looking at just the home on the right, our septic system leaking into the water table, guess what? That's going to cause pollutants and contaminants. We use copper and lead pipes in some of the older homes that we have, and guess what? That's going to put heavy metals into the water supply. You have farms, you have nitrates, fertilizers, pesticides. You have chemical spills from the chemical industry and the oil and gas industry. You have landfills, all kinds of toxic waste there. You have leaking gas tanks. You have acid rain, smog, air pollution, smoke. All of us are to blame for this. And the reality is we need to understand that we are consuming these things and we need to do what's necessary to help curb it. Does that mean bottled water? Not necessarily. Filtered water may be a better choice, but you need to do some research to understand the water effect. In fact, most people, when we talk about water, they immediately think of Detroit because it was all over the news, and they think Michigan must have the worst water. The reality is, an independent study was done across the U.S. and found that these are the top 10 states with the most toxic tap water. Most people are shocked at number one, with California leading the group of the most toxic water out there. As you know, we do this presentation. I'm sitting in Texas. We rank number 5. Texas is used to trying to be the biggest and baddest and everything. So something tells me we're going to be trying to move up this list, even though it's not a positive. But we're going to have to do something to curb it. And then, of course, I see some other states on here that are well represented by the people that are on this webinar. So you need to understand what your water supply is and what it's doing to you, and understand what's in it, most importantly. Ladies, I told you I was going to pick on you. Here's the thing. The average woman in the U.S. is putting around 168 chemicals on their body every day. See, most people think, okay, I'm using a particular lotion. Well, guess what? That lotion is made up of all kinds of chemicals. Could be hundreds of chemicals. Who knows? But you need to take the time to understand that what you're putting on your skin can actually be ingested into your body through your skin. So be very careful. Make sure you understand where your makeup comes from. Make sure you know what it's made from. Make sure that you understand whether or not it is actually leaching through your skin and into your bloodstream, because this could be causing all kinds of issues and problems for you that you don't even appreciate. This one that you need to understand. This one is fingernail and toenail polish. It just is what it is. There's 3 ingredients. They call them the toxic trio. And in fact, if you see the source of this information, this is from the U.S. EPA, National Cancer Institute, the National Industrial Chemical Notification and Assessment Scheme, as well as a Safe Work Australia. Formaldehyde. It's used to harden the nail polish. What it has been linked to is causing cancer, irritating the eyes and airways, causing skin problems, and nausea. It is what it is. They use it to harden the nail polish. Toluene. All right, that has been, in concentrate. That's basically for the smoothing of the nail polish, if you will. In concentrated amounts, the chemical affects the heart, liver, kidneys, and nervous system. It can lead to dizziness, unconsciousness, eye irritation, and under prolonged exposure, mental impairment. And then you have dibutyl phthalate. Well, this is the one that you need to really understand, especially if you're pregnant or trying to get pregnant. It's the plasticizer so that the nail polish will soften, stop it from cracking. It can harm unborn children and has been linked to impairing fertility. So, ladies, do the nails really need to look that good? It's just one of those things you're going to have to make an informed choice. But guess what? There may be an alternative out there. Just when you're going to have your nails done, make sure that you're an informed consumer with regard to what it is you're using. Because if you're using the chemical version, good chances are these 3 toxic trios are in the nail polish that you're using on a regular basis. How does this affect us? How does pollution affect us? Well, this chart kind of shows it. Air pollution, water pollution, soil contamination. It basically attacks every organ and tissue in our body, from our skin to our head to our respiratory system to the intestinal tract to, you name it. It causes all kinds of issues and problems for us. And in fact, most of us are in a constant state of inflammation, or in other words, your body is in a constant battle to try and rid itself of these toxins and pollutants. And in fact, our diet and lifestyle in the United States already doesn't lend us to giving the body what it needs to properly and adequately fight these things. So as a result, we end up with all kinds of nutrient deficiencies because of this constant battle, because of this constant state of inflammation. And that's just the reality of what we're doing. We talk all the time about how diet and lifestyle decisions are creating nutritional gaps, but we don't appreciate or understand that what we're exposing ourselves to, or the easy way out that we're choosing on some of the things that we do in our lifestyle and or our environment, are causing all kinds of issues and problems for us that are, basically keeping us from getting the results we're looking for in our health journey. So how do we detoxify or eliminate things when we're exposed to them? How does the body work? Well, the toxins enter in 3 places: the skin, ingestion, or through the gut, and then of course through the lungs. We breathe them in. Everything is going to go through the liver. Okay, that's, can you imagine the tax that's being put on the liver with all these chemicals and things that are affecting us? And then, of course, the liver is going to excrete all of these chemicals and toxins to the best of its ability through the skin, the kidneys, the colon, and the lungs. It's basically going to try to get it out. The reality is, with things like PM 2.5 and others, there are some excess toxins that do not make them out, and they actually end up getting stored. And they can get stored in fat cells, bone marrow, liver, central nervous system, joints, blood, tissues, and muscles. The effects, according to the EPA, result in all the things you see below, from acne and skin irritations to arthritis to diarrhea to fibromyalgia to headaches to IBS, neurological disorders, and even obesity and overweight. Again, when our body is in a constant state of inflammation and shock and it's in fighting, it does not operate optimally. So you need to understand how the body's trying to react to all of the things that we're exposing it to. Yeah, Mark, but this doesn't apply to me. I buy organic and natural. I don't expose myself to these things. I do everything I possibly can to make sure that I'm not and my family's not exposed to any of the stuff that you're talking about. Well, let's look at something. This is the national average. The average American uses 25 gallons of toxic chemicals in their home every year. That's 25 gallons of toxic chemicals that we are exposing our families and ourselves to every single year on average in this country. So let's assume you're better than average. Let's assume it's only 12 and a half gallons. You know, you're half of what everyone else is. Let's even assume you're a fifth. You're 5 gallons. What is that exposure doing to you? Well, here's something you should probably know. There's roughly 84,000 industrial chemicals used in household items. 84,000. Of those, only about 200 of them have been tested by the FDA. 5 of them are regulated, and the last time the federal chemical safety law was updated was 1976. So even if you are better than average, even if you are a super clean eater and you try to do everything you can to buy organic and natural things, not to expose yourself and your family to these chemicals, the reality is this: even if you are 1/5 of what the national average is, you're still exposing yourself to upwards of 80,000 plus chemicals, only 200 of which have ever been tested by the FDA. So you have a lot of untested, unknown chemicals that we're exposing ourselves to. So yes, this applies to you as well. In fact, here's the other thing. When people say, yeah, but this doesn't apply to me, BPA is found in 9 out of 10 of Americans. This is one of the contaminants or pollutants that we're trying to avoid in plastics. If you see that BPA-free stuff all over the place, that's what they're talking about. But right now, it is found in 9 out of 10 Americans. Phthalates and PDBE, flame retardants, are found in 99% of pregnant women. Remember, the phthalates have been linked to infertility and other related issues for fetuses. 99% of pregnant women have this in their bloodstream. And then, of course, there have been 232 toxic chemicals found in umbilical cord blood for U.S. newborns. That is on average when they've done these studies and tests. 232 toxic chemicals. How are they getting that into the umbilical cord blood? Simple. Mom has been exposed to it. So even when we try to do the right thing, even when we do everything we possibly can, the reality is this: we as Americans are still exposed to this stuff on a regular basis. Now, this is something that you may or may not be aware of. There is something called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And you can Google this and find out some more information on it. But the reality is the Clean 15 are things that the pesticides and chemicals used in the production of these fruits and vegetables are easily removed. These are things that you can buy on the store shelf and clean off pretty easily according to the people that put out these two lists. The Dirty Dozen are the ones where the chemicals and pesticides that are used on these vegetables and fruits basically penetrate the outer shell or the outer skin of the fruit and or vegetable, and they get into the meat of the vegetable and fruit itself, which means you cannot wash them out and you will ingest them. So if you don't know what the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen are, now at least you've been exposed to them, and you can do some Google searching to find out for yourself, when you're choosing the fruits and vegetables that you and your family are consuming. So why would we be talking about ID Nutrition? At ID Life, we have the world's very first and only truly customized vitamin platform, delivering you what you need when you need it, so that the body can do exactly what it was designed to do, which is take care of itself. But in this particular case, the reason why we are mentioning ID Nutrition isn't because of the vitamins as much as it is the assessment. See, the assessment allows you to go in and take a report or take an assessment for free, HIPAA protected system. All your information is yours. We're not going to share it with anybody. But the most important thing is you're going to tell us about your personal situation, your diet, lifestyle things, your physical conditions, sleep, stress, things of that nature, any medical conditions or symptomology you have, as well as any medications, both pharmaceutical and over the counter, that you're taking. And we're going to give you a free health report. Again, it is free. As you can see, you get a health score. That free health report is going to not only give you a numerical score of what the current value of your health is numerically, but it's also going to give you a 6 to 16 page report that is going to talk to you about diet and lifestyle choices and changes that either you're doing well or that you could improve to not only improve your number, but improve your overall health. Don't worry, nowhere in this report does it recommend an IDLife product. This is informational for you. Again, it is free. Take the time to actually read it. The reason why I mentioned the assessment and the report is because we've recently added 3 new questions to the assessment that directly relate to the topic that we're covering today. In fact, the first question is, do you regularly use or come in contact with any of the following products in your home or place of work? And if you answer that yes, you do to any of these, part of your report is going to be giving you information that you can use to curb some of those exposures. So again, valuable resource, valuable tool to get you information that you might not otherwise have known. For instance, we started out this presentation talking about PM 2.5. Very small percentage of the population even knows what it is or how they're affected by it. If you talk about in this particular situation and you answer the question on the environmental that you are living in a major metropolitan city, guess what? You're going to learn about PM 2.5 in your assessment report because you need to know what it is, how you're being exposed to it, and what you can do about it. That's what these questions are all about. The other question is, do any of these following apply to you? I live in a major metropolitan city. I use chemical insecticides and pesticides in the home or business. I use weed killer herbicides in my home or business, and I use these as part of my profession, or I live near agriculture. One of the things a lot of people miss is they think when they live in the country, they're safe. The reality is the country folks, especially in areas where there's a high amount of farming and ranching, are probably exposed to more chemicals than most because of things that get into the air as part of our treatment protocol for killing off bugs and improving the growth of the crops, including genetically modifying them. So we need to have the information, and this report is going to give you the information you need. And then, of course, do you work in any of the following professions? Now, you'll notice, like for instance, in Group 1, mechanics are in Group 1, and you also notice mechanics are also in Group 3. Well, Mark, what would I do? Because why would it be in 2 different groups? Well, the reality is each one of these groups is being affected by a different type of pollutant and or toxin, which means if you happen to be working in a profession where you fall into more than one group, you check all that apply. That's right. So you very well may be exposing yourself not only to environmental toxins, but to also heavy metal toxins and lifestyle toxins, depending on the profession that we choose. So the whole idea behind this question is to get you, again, the information you need so that you can make an informed choice and maybe make some changes so that you can reduce and or eliminate your exposure to these harmful toxins and pollutants. Again, the whole idea behind these lunch and learns isn't to scare. It's not to do anything other than to educate. It's done to basically give you, the consumer, the information that you need so that you can make an informed choice for what's best in the interest of both you, the people that you care about, and the people that you love, you and your families. That's what this is about. In the end, what we're talking about is our diet and lifestyle choices are creating nutritional gaps. The idea of IDLife as a health and wellness company is identifying for you where those diet and lifestyle choices are, how they're affecting your health, and how they're creating the nutritional gaps that you have, and trying to help you change your habits to improve those choices so that you can actually reduce those nutritional gaps. The whole idea behind the free assessment and the free report is to do just that. Give you the information you need so that you can make an informed choice in what you're doing on a daily basis.